Good morning. Welcome to the Self-Talk Sherpa show. I'm Bonnie Roberts, and thank you for joining me. Okay, tomorrow is Halloween. You guys getting excited? I have my kids, so I'm really looking forward to doing all the Halloween stuff with them. So I thought I would choose this topic of the ghost archetype for this season of the year. So, the ghost archetype. This is not a very common one, but the idea behind this is that the reason we're fascinated with ghosts is because they symbolize this other world, this other dimension of this spiritual, non-physical realm that we don't understand. And so we're absolutely fascinated with it. And all of these people that pay for these ghost hunting tours, that deliberately stay at these haunted hotels, we are just fascinated with the idea of ghosts. So what is it about ghosts? I believe that, and it's kind of like that movie, The Sixth Sense, that ghosts are unresolved. They're beings that have not completed their mission and purpose, and there's something that they still need to do. And so they hang around because they are not able to resolve whatever the thing is. And in the Sixth Sense, these ghosts need someone who has a physical body to complete whatever the thing is that needs to be completed. And so they go to this little boy because he doesn't have defenses against them. He's able to see them, and he learns to accept them rather than being afraid of them, and just know that they are people just like him. Their body has moved on, but they're beings just like him that just need help, right? So every single one of our lives has purpose and meaning, and we have to complete our life. And if that purpose and meaning isn't completed during our mortality, then the idea is that we end up as a ghost, and we haunt those who can help complete the meaning of our life for us, because we no longer have that body, right? And that's why when people are on their deathbed, they have this ritual of closure where they say what they need to say, they tie up all the loose ends, you basically have to bring back all the fragments and tie them together so that you can have peace as you move on to the next existence, right? And so yeah, basically these ghosts are souls that feel incomplete on the earth. Now, can we exhibit ghost-like tendencies without actually being a disembodied spirit? I believe you can. I believe that if we're not living a life of purpose and meaning, that we kind of ghost through our life, even though we do have a physical body. It's like we are standing at a distance from our body when we're living without that meaning that our soul craves, that we disassociate almost from our body and step out of it in order to resolve the cognitive dissonance that we feel from not living our purpose. Does that make sense? Oh, by the way, if anyone is watching and wants a card draw at the end, make sure you comment so that I will know, and then we will do however many we have time for. So first people who comment get the first chance at a card draw. So I use these archetype cards. I did a tarot spread using these last night on somebody in my family, and she was blown away. It was so right on. She was doing it in relation, She was doing a 5-card relationship cross spread, and it was fascinating. So these cards, they're not accidental. Holly wants a card. Okay. We will get to that at the end. Okay. So sometimes we make decisions using our life force that fragment us, right? That fragment us and cause us, because we've negotiated our power out. And anytime we negotiate our power, it causes a break in somewhere inside of our psyche, right? That because we've shown up in a way that's inauthentic. So we've like broken off a piece of our power and put it over here. And so we're haunted when we've got all of these broken off pieces of ourselves scattered all around. And it's like those pieces are calling to us to be brought back in and re-embodied. And that's what haunts us. And so that's where we kind of float away from our body, because we're so fragmented, we're so split off that we're not a unified being anymore. That is what haunts us. And so we've got to acknowledge the places we've sold out and the places we haven't been authentic, so that we can go and reclaim those splintered off pieces of ourselves, right? Does that make sense? So this is a huge part of self-mastery. I am all about self-mastery. That we have this beautiful psyche and gift of imagination to create ourselves any way that we want. We can create our identity any way that we want. And so to master ourselves, we get to get really clear on what unique powers we have and how we use those powers in the world. And so that's why I use archetypes, because it puts a label on the different flavors of power that we have, and it allows us to claim which powers are unique to us. And then we can let those powers guide us through our life. We can create a hologram of our psyche. So I've done that with I've put my top 12 archetypes into an astrological wheel. This is a hologram of my psyche, and I use it all the time to guide me in how I live my life, so that I show up authentically, so I show up in my power and in my gifts and strengths. I think it's amazing. I love this work. So I wanted to read a little bit from this book. I used to read from this book every time in this program, but I haven't for a long time now. This is by David White, and he's a poet, but it's not poetry. This is prose. And this is his essay called Haunted. And the whole thing is good, but I'm just gonna read part of it. So this is about, first he explains what it means to be haunted, and how the thing that haunts us is something that seeks its own disappearance because it wants to become fully itself so that it can depart. Like a spirit that has fulfilled their mission and purpose is free to depart and go into the next realm of existence because it has become fully itself, right? And so we become kind of ghost-like and not quite incarnated when we have, and when we're looking for our home, right? We feel this need to disturb other people's lives because we're trying to find this home. So how do we cease to be haunted? And he will answer this question here. We cease to be haunted when we cease to be afraid of making what has been untouchable real and touchable again. Especially our understandings of the past, and especially those we wronged, those we were wronged by, and those we did not help. So we're haunted by the past and our understandings about the past specifically. We become real by forgiving ourselves, and we forgive ourselves most authentically by changing the foundational pattern of our behavior, especially our behavior to those we have hurt. So this is the work we get to do, is looking at the past and all those places we've sold out, those we have wronged, those who have wronged us. Thanks for the heart, Lynn. Appreciate that. And this is how we become authentically ourselves so that we can stop being haunted by these fragments that we've splintered off as we've negotiated our power out, right? A fear of ghosts or a fear of our own haunted mind is the measure of our absence in this world. We cease to be afraid when we give away what was never ours in the first place and begin to be present to our own lives just as we find them. In our earthly vulnerabilities, even in facing what we have banished from our thoughts and made homeless, even when we do not know the way forward ourselves. Okay, so something that all of us do is we exile parts of ourselves. We say, oh, this is not us, because it's not socially acceptable. We learn as a young child to put it in this black bag of bad, right? This is bad, so it's not me because I'm good, right? And so we exile out these parts of ourselves and we banish. It's just like Encanto, when Bruno banishes himself within the walls of the house, right? We banish ourselves from ourselves. And this is what causes us to be haunted, right? But when we make a friend of what we previously could not face, what once haunted us now becomes an invisible parallel ally, a beckoning hand to our future. So even though he was banished, even though he was exiled from the family, Bruno ended up with his gifts saving the family, right? And so this part of ourselves that we have fragmented off, that is the key to our success. And that's why we are not successful now, because we have banished that part of ourselves. When we bring it back, then we will now have access to those gifts again, right? And then we will be able to experience the success that we were meant to experience, because we have reclaimed all the parts of ourselves. Lynn says, it always comes back to Encanto with you, doesn't it? Always. I need to do my Night of Encanto workshop again. I haven't done that in a year and a half. No, a year. I haven't done that in a year. Who else loves Encanto? Put it in the comments. It is the best movie ever made. I love it so much. Okay, one more paragraph from David White here. We banish the misaligned when we align with what we are called to. We become visible and real when we give our gift and stop waiting for the gift to be given to us, right? We wake into our lives again as if for the first time, laying to rest what previously had no home, through beginning to speak, beginning to make real, and beginning to live. Those elements constellating inside us that long to move from the invisible to the visible. Okay? That is how you do the work. You find those shadow places that you have not cast the light of your consciousness on yet. And you shine the light, and then it's no longer a shadow, right? It's no longer spooky or scary, or it can't haunt you. A haunted house is never fully lit. It's always dark, right? And because when the light is cast on anything, it doesn't seem scary anymore. And we start to see, because we see it for what it really is when it's fully in the light. And when we see anything for what it really is, we realize that it's not scary or bad or wrong. It's just incomplete or lost or disowned. And when we fully own it and bring it back in, then it has a home again, and it can stop doing all of the nonsense that it was doing before. I've said this before, but every single one of my top 12 archetypes I thought were bad in some way. I thought it was something wrong with me. And that was one of the keys that told me, okay, this one really is so important, because I felt this need to push it away and disassociate from it. And as I brought those qualities back. And I said, no, this is not a bad thing. This is who I am. And it's beautiful. Then I've been able to show up in my life authentically. And that brings me so much joy. And it helps me to inspire other people so much more than how I was living before, when I was just haunted. I was floating through life like a ghost because I was not owning and claiming these pieces of myself, right? How many of you have ever experienced that? Put it in the comments. Say, I used to be a ghost. My daughter told me a couple of years ago, she said, Mom, you used to be boring. That's like my favorite compliment. Because I did used to be boring when I did not know who I was. And the more I've mastered myself, the more I've reclaimed myself, the more interesting I've become, because I've stepped into my uniqueness and the things that are my greatest strengths and the most special about me. I've let those shine recently. Okay. I know I just read something, but I want to share a poem by Rumi. And I think it's called A Voice Through the Door. And I think that the voice through the door is ourself calling us back to ourself. It's either the parts of ourselves that we fragmented off that are calling to us to be reclaimed and found, or if we're coming from that place of being disembodied, it's our true self calling us back, calling us to come back into our body, right? To come back and reincorporate into our body. Corporal actually, that actually means, corpse, that actually means body. So incorporate actually means returning into the body. Isn't that cool? Okay, so here's A Voice Through the Door by Rumi. This is one I did in my recent open mic set. Sometimes a voice comes to your soul calling you. Oh, no, that's not it. Sometimes a voice comes through the door calling you, as fish out of water hear the waves. As fish out of water hear the waves. Or the hunting falcon hears the drums, come back, come back. This turning toward what you deeply love saves you. This turning toward what you deeply love saves you. This is key right here. Children fill their shirts with rocks and carry them around. We're not children anymore. Read the book of your life, which has been given you. A voice comes to your soul saying, lift your foot, cross over, move into the emptiness of question and answer and question. Don't you love how mysterious that is? I just adore Rumi. The way he makes me think, the mystery and the awe and the way he expresses these ideas. It's just fascinating. He is just phenomenal. Probably definitely the most prolific poet the world has ever known. He's written tens of thousands of verses. Like, he's written more than Shakespeare. He's just prolific. But this idea that turning toward what you deeply love saves you. Turning toward what you deeply love is turning toward the deepest, most authentic part of yourself. And if you're denying yourself what you love the most, you are going to be haunted. You are going to float through your life like a ghost, because your desires and your loves are, the reason it animates your soul so much is because it's your spirit leading you to your purpose. And if you don't allow yourself to follow those breadcrumbs to your purpose, then you're just going to walk around devoid of meaning. And you're going to haunt yourself and others until you collect until you collect those breadcrumbs and find your way to your heart's desire, right? Children fill their shirts with rocks and carry them around. I relate to that. As a child, I used to just love to find these beautiful rocks and collect them and keep them. And if I didn't have a bag, I put them in my shirt, right? We're not children anymore, meaning we're not going to be picking up pretty rocks, but you get to collect your passions by diving into those experiences that light your soul on fire. Just like the children with those rocks that they collect. This is your work. Not just to uncover and shine the light of consciousness into the shadows, like that's part of it, but your true work is to follow what you dearly love, right? And by doing that, it just happens that the light of your consciousness gets shown into the shadowy places. Because as you leap into the unknown by following what you love, you will naturally encounter those blocks and those shadows, and then you get to deal with them. And you'll deal with them because you're called to something that's compelling you. Like fish out of water hearing the waves that wants to get back home. The hunting falcon hearing the drums, come back, come back. It wants to go home because that's where it gets its reward, right? For doing its hunting work. So it wants to go, it hears that drum saying come back, and it wants to go back because it knows the reward is waiting there with its handler, right? Okay, we're running out of time, and Holly asked for a card. Holly, do you want an archetype card or an interactive card if you're still here? And anyone else who's watching, you can also get a card. Okay, I'm not sure that she is still live with us. Oh, archetype. Yeah, you put architect, but I'm sure you meant archetype. Okay. All right, Holly, how many times should I shuffle these? One. I love doing these card draws. It's super fun for me. There's no magic in the cards. The cards are a tool. The magic is inside of me, and it comes from my higher power. 1, 2, and 3. And I use these cards as a tool to let that inspiration come through. All right, Holly, set the intention. The card drawn will be just something you need to be made aware of today. All right, we don't have much time, so I'm just going to do one card. All right. Ooh, this one has already come up in one of these. We've got the child archetype, specifically the orphan. The light attributes of the orphan are independence based on learning to go it alone. So some of the most successful people in history have had parents die really, really young. So literally orphaned, right? And they had to learn to survive in this world without anyone taking care of them. So they developed huge capacity for independence and getting through it and making it work. And they've found such success because they haven't leaned on anybody else. They've known they had to find it in themselves. So there have been very, very strong people who've come from orphan backgrounds. Another light attribute is conquering the fear of surviving. Okay, so orphans, the child archetype in general, the thing it fears above all is being abandoned. Now, the orphan was abandoned. So if you have this archetype as your child archetype, we all have the child archetype, but if this orphan is your specific child archetype, you were abandoned at some point in your childhood and you had to learn to go it alone. And so you had to conquer the fear of surviving because you actually went through it. The rest of us that don't have the orphan, we we could still be in the fear of surviving because we never like got put to the test. You know what I mean? But you were put to the test and you had to survive. And so then you realized you could. You realized if I could get through that, I can get through anything. Like, I'm so strong. I'm so resilient. I'm so amazing. You learned that. And so this could have given you huge strength, huge resilience. Now, every archetype also has their shadow. So the orphan child, the shadow, could be feelings of abandonment that stifle maturation. So just this resentment, oh, I was abandoned. They did this to me. How could they have done? And you could stay in that energy, and it doesn't allow you to mature. And so you stay stuck in this childlike state. Another shadow attribute is seeking inappropriate surrogate families. So looking for someone to take care of you because your parents were not there. And so you found, and so sometimes people with the orphan child, they go into gang activity because that is a surrogate family where they have belonging and they have a sense of purpose and they feel significant, right? And they have someone to get to, that has their back. And so often people with this archetype will go into these situations, these surrogate families that don't have their best interests at heart, like a real family might. So Holly, did that? You don't have to comment on it, but hopefully that resonated with you in some way. This random card draw does not mean this is one of your top 12, but it's something for you to look at today. It could be, but maybe another child archetype would resonate more with you. But it's something that you get to look at inside of yourself, and look at your past and maybe call back a part of yourself that you might have exiled. It's really interesting to me. Okay, awesome. Good. Okay, just an announcement. I will be speaking at Rejuvenate You, March 7th through 9th. So let me know if you'd like more information on that. It's in Provo, 3-day personal development event. It's going to be awesome. Lynn asks, do you think everybody has one of the child archetypes in their top 12? Yes, every one of us has a child archetype. It is it's not only in your top 12, it's in your top 4. This is one of the survival archetypes. And we've all been a child, right? And we will carry this energy we will carry this through our lives. Even though we've grown now, we will always have an inner child that is needing to survive, needing to be taken care of by not by others, right? We're learning to take care of ourselves by another part of ourselves, nurturing this inner child. And it's all about idealism and purity and innocence, like I talked about in on this program recently. So yes, we all have it, but it shows up differently. There are so many different versions of the child archetype, a different version for like every person, but some of them fall in different categories. But yeah, and then you just get to choose which version you kind of resonate the most with. I chose magical child, just because that's kind of how I felt as a child. I felt like it was a magical world and I was so curious and wanting to discover everything. And that just feels like my soul. I wasn't like wounded or abused growing up. So I don't have I don't feel like I'm dependent. I don't have the damsel, very high in my hierarchy. Okay, it is past 10. Also, if any of you would like my quiz, I have a quiz called How Mean Is Your Inner Critic? And I give you 13 questions to answer about how do you talk to yourself inside of your head, and then it will peg you in one of 4 archetypes for your inner critic. So it's just kind of fun and interesting way to look inside yourself and see how you operate. And then I give you some tips on how to up level your self-talk so that you can so that you can move up, have your inner critic move up to be more helpful to you instead of just having it be mean to you. So if you want that, put in the comments, quiz please, and I will get that to you. Okay, everyone have a wonderful week. I will see you next Monday. I think I'm going to do the vampire archetype because it's after Halloween. I was going to do both of those today, but the ghost really needed the full time. I mean, come on, that's just rich, right? So I think I will do the vampire next week, unless I change my mind and pick a different one. Okay, have a great week. Bye.